In a week where everything was to give the RNC the devil their due, they were able to choreograph effectively their speakers, their primetime lineup, the look. They got everybody on board the Trump train. They got even those who were uncomfortable with Trump to pledge essentially fealty to Trump. Fealty would be a ding word. The reality was it was an extremely well-managed convention. The final night, you're going to stick the landing with your candidate. And it was a bit on the bizarre side. I mean, but that's kind of the rogues gallery of people who support Donald Trump. I'm talking about, you know, when you get Dana White from the UFC and Hulk Hogan tearing his shirt open. We'll have that for you. I mean, it was just a little, it was theatrical. Now, you can say, and I try to take it this way, it was the theater of it, and that's sort of the fun of it, you know. But I'm just saying that was all well done, but you have to kind of be okay, as I say, with that sort of weird lineup. You know, Kid Rock, there you go. Delwood Kelp says, who can doubt the wisdom of Hulk Hogan and Kid Rock? That, plus a crisp and concise blueprint for America's future, kept viewers on the edge of their seats. Delwood Kelp, who I have to say, and again, I admire that fake name, Delwood Kelp, I think at one point was fingered as a troll in the, but now I read everything he says with sarcasm, and it all makes me laugh, and I realize maybe we were wrong about Delwood Kelp all along. Yeah, here's the Hulkster. You got to hear the audio, though, too. Can we hear it, Albert, please? Just go back to the Hulk, and you got to hear the audio.
But what happened
because
last
there is
week
go ahead.
when
I'll
they
tell you on the other side.
took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough, and I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Okay, it's okay, brother. Let's make Trump mania rise again. Trump mania, brother. Train money. All right. It was suggested here, and I think with our crowd, you're going to get a little bit of this. Don the Con says MAGA is the WWE of politics, violence and fake stories. Not wrong. And of course, let me just say this about the story. You know, conventions are there to tell a story, an agreed upon story. Here's how this convention changed and was potentially transformational if they had stuck the landing. Testosterone drift off the stage. Exactly. It was a very male-oriented, and it's funny that you say that, William Lundgren, because it was a very male-oriented lineup, you know. Just a very aggro lineup. Everything was very aggressive, very over the top. Shadow producer Calvin Wong says, didn't he promise a unifying speech for America? He sure did repeat his complaints and rants. Hulk really insulted people by saying only real Americans are in the audience. Sad. Yeah. The thing that bothered me about Hulk was when he said they tried to take out our guy, or what? You remember they try. I don't like the they. There was no sense that there was a they that tried to take out Donald Trump. It looks by all yardsticks now that as you measure it, it was a one-off. It was a disgruntled, looks like maybe a MAGA fan or just one of those guys who hates everything and everyone. He had a history of talking about violence, just to spend a second on the guy who took a shot at Trump. He talked about shooting up his high school. So, and he grew up it was a MAGA house that he grew up in. He's a registered Republican. So when you say they tried to take out our guy, who are you talking about? There is a subtle and not so subtle narrative that would suggest that the Democrats are the enemy. The press is the enemy of the state. This doesn't serve any purpose except to build a kind of animus that can lead to violence. Murphy Rowan, the $10 super chat. First, big shout out to Murph.
Big shout out.
The ear bandage is ridiculous. I had 2 C-sections cutting through layers of tissue, and I only had a bandage for 1 day.
Big shout out.
Yeah, I don't know to what degree he really needs that bandage. As I told you, he was golfing the next day, and he was not wearing a bandage. That said, the bandage thing is another sign of loyalty from his followers in the convention hall. There were a lot of people with their right ear bandaged.
Everybody has a bandage now. Everybody has a bandage. They look like a bunch of buffoons.
Yeah. But I'm going to say this when we finally got to maybe run the piece. We're going to have a bigger breakdown of things, and you'll get another opinion. And also we'll talk about the Biden future with Mo Kelly, who's going to join. Michael Schur is headed back from the convention. But Mo Kelly's brilliant, and you're going to love him, and he'll have great takes in the second hour. We also have Florida, bottom of the hour, and then Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, in the second hour as well to talk about movies. But right now, how about a little bit of a setup piece? This runs a few minutes. I'm going to say it runs about 2.5 minutes, something like that, to give you a sense of the speech. And the last thing I was going to say, because I was reading some comments, et cetera, these conventions are very well choreographed, and they're to tell a story. And I have 2 points to make very quickly. One is, it was well choreographed, as I was saying. It was well produced. I thought, I'd love to make fun of it or ding it for various things, but I thought logistically, and I thought from the standpoint of what they presented. I mean, again, these you could suggest are problematic figures in American history. When you have Tucker Carlson and Marco Rubio and Peter Navarro. I mean, these are, in my view, these are truly evil forces. And again, I'm not talking about in some biblical evil way, but I'm saying that they're bad guys. They really are, and I view them that way. But having said that, I thought having them all line up, this is kind of sort of this murderer's row of nasty, that does speak to a lot of Republican voters or MAGA voters or MAGA sympathetic voters who don't see them the way I just described. So I thought having them there in the lineup was fine. The story they were trying to tell at the end, had they stuck the landing, this is the point I wanted to make, was associated with the transformational nature of what had happened with Donald Trump. This great guy who you love so much, remember the 4 years, you love that MAGA world. Let's bring him back, and he's better now because he just survived this attempt on his life. And so he has softened, he has realized in his heart that he has to unify this country. That's the story that we had heard we were going to get. Instead, we got a long, almost frame-by-frame breakdown of what happened with the assassination attempt. Still a good way to start, I thought, but just went on too long and too detailed. He needed an editor. And then it was reversion to the mean. In other words, then he went back to the Trump we know, dumping on Democrats, crazy Nancy Pelosi.
That's what happens when you go off script.
And exactly, he was undisciplined. And then when you speak about undisciplined, the speech went on forever. And the last thing I will say is, from the standpoint of producing this convention, which I've just told you I thought was well produced, they really let the ball get into the outfield on them because they started him on stage at 10:30 Eastern time. People are going to sleep after the assassination description. Okay, you spend 30 minutes talking about the attempt on your life, which is fine. You choose your story and how you want to front load it any way you want. I just said it was a good idea to tell that story. I would have told it in a more succinct way. But that said, he then went on for another hour. Well, those people on the East Coast, they're asleep. And those people who weren't asleep, whose job it is to watch, like me, I'm thinking, dude, this is weak. It's just like a campaign rally speech. You give this on the stump, and one of those things where you have so you're not bringing new people to a softer Trump. And then the last thing I'll say, and then we'll play the piece for you, is that he struck me also as diminished. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people talk about Biden. Biden's on death's door. Biden can't put two thoughts together. Biden, he doesn't know where he is a lot of the time. He slurs his words, et cetera. I get it. And a lot of those things I think are true. But I didn't think Trump was so great. I didn't think Trump had much fire. Maybe in his effort to mute his delivery, he came across as weak. But I thought his normal vituperative, angry rhetoric wasn't really matched by the tone, by literally the way he spoke. Vituperative is a ding word. Anyway, Albert, show the rap piece on it, and this will give you a sense of the night if you missed any of it.
I begin this evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. Despite such a heinous attack, we unite this evening more determined than ever. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey Comparator. He lost his life selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit.
This is nice, but has he called the family?
So
As
he's now
a son,
hugging the fire.
I've never been more proud of a person in my life.
This
A
is
man
Eric
who
Trump.
survived a bullet that was intended to eliminate him permanently from our future and from our family. Never have I been more proud to be a Trump.
I know President Trump is a fighter.
This is Dana
I've been
White.
saying this since 2015. Now look at what's happened over the last 10 years. We have all seen it with our own eyes. I know President Trump is literally putting his life on the line for something bigger than himself. And he's willing to risk it all because he loves this country. But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother.
I stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. Our politics too often divide us. Now is the time to remember that we are all fellow citizens. We are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
There it was. They, I guess it was part of her New Deal that she renegotiated. Melania was on stage, and
Does
even
she not
managed
look
to...
like she wants to be anywhere but there?
Oh, my God. She always looks like that, though. That's her look. I miss Scott Baio, says Julie. I actually find that look really hot. I always love it when with a woman, it just seems like she's unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like you, and I don't like anything around here. But I'm with you. I'm oddly drawn to women like that. I think it's the fashion model thing. When they walk the catwalk, they're all supposed to have that attitude, like, you know what? I don't even want to be here right now. I'm, that
I'm too
angry
cool
walk
for you.
that they all have. Yeah. And I think that's her background. So
I saw a picture last night of when she was introduced and the family stood around her in the special box seats and they were clapping for her, and everyone had this smirk on their face like they don't want her there either. It was it's pretty obvious there's no love lost.
It was a wild night, and it concluded what was, as I say, I thought a very well-run convention. But that said, again, I didn't think they stuck the landing. They brought Trump on with that big Trump billboard thing. Albert, do you have a shot of that? Is that on there somewhere? I think it's at the beginning of that piece. But it was just so weird. It was sort of like it felt very like a Broadway show or something that he was going to, and there was some theatricality to it. And I love theatricality. Look at me. I love big opens. I love drops, production elements, music themes. I love all that stuff. So I appreciate it. But I felt as though they really kind of missed. And I think more than anything, your candidate is a real problematic guy. There he is, Trump. I mean, I expect him to burst into song when I see that backdrop.
The name
Doesn't
and
it
lights.
look like that?
Yeah. It looks like a Vegas backdrop.
In fact, it would have been if it had been a Trump impersonator who then did a little song, then Trump came on, that would have been an upgrade as to what we got. Melania and Ivanka were so pretty, says Doug. They are attractive people. I agree with that. I wonder how many shoes were sold last night. You know, he had the special shoes. We featured them here on the show on Thursday. And they're a little over $200 a piece, I think. Now he's selling $300 shoes with blood on them. Yeah. You know, it has with fight, fight, fight on it as well. Where were the Rockettes, Eric wants to know exactly. He could have sung I Did It My Way. Very good point, John Watson. Yeah. It does have a Vegas show look as they brought him on. But wow, it was long. So that's a little bit of what happened last night. As I say, the bulk of the speech, which was the hour that followed the assassination attempt recounting, it was full of recriminations. You effectively dry cleaned all speeches prior to that from of any reference to the 2020 election being stolen, like they weren't playing that beat. But Trump went back to it. You know, Trump went back to they used COVID to steal the election. He went back to some Iranian stuff. We'll run it. This is a guy who pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal and now is blaming the Biden administration for the rise of Iran with nukes. I mean, it's a crazy Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass thing that Trump does. Melania taking just a peck on the cheek from Trump at the end was great. Yes, it's true. That was part of her deal. But probably have the number of pecks that she has to go through stipulated in her marital agreement.
Only allowed to touch me 2 times.
Yeah. Yeah, when he said drill, baby, drill. Thank you, John. That was just so, I mean, God, it's so 2016, you know. He just hasn't changed his act. Now, it may be enough to win. But I'm just making a point. What was up with Matt Gaetz's face, asks Spiny Norman. What, Albert, can you give me a shot of Matt Gaetz's face? It was weird. Google it. Did he have a facelift? Is that, Kim, or is that Botox? What is that?
I try not to look at Matt Gaetz's face very often.
He was, it was something a little weird, the look of Matt Gaetz, who was a young, attractive dude.
No, he looks
but
like
look
Beavis
at how,
from
look at
Beavis
his
and Butthead.
eyes. He did something with his eyes or eyebrows.
Maybe it's makeup. Maybe it's Maybelline.
The image is hideous.
He looks like Beavis from Beavis and Butthead. I can't look at him and see anything else.
I have no problem with plastic surgery. I wish I could find the right kind for myself. I absolutely, I'm worried that if I do it, I'm going to end up looking, you know, like, as Michael says, Matt Gaetz, the Joker. You know, it really does look extreme. Looks like he's had an eyebrow lift. Is that a thing where they can lift the eyebrows? Look at that. I mean, it's really... Anyway.
Did you see the moment where he heckled...
That's real.
He heckled Kevin McCarthy during a McCarthy interview?
Yes, I did see that. Yeah. I did see that. Matt Gaetz looked like Wayne Newton, said Trevor Starr in Hollywood. I think that's actually a decent... 2 people went a little far, at least 2 that I can think of, but thank you for the Wayne Newton reference because he's one of them. The other is Kenny Rogers at the end of his life. He went the last 10 years of his life. Kenny Rogers went nuts with...
he had a horrible car accident, though. The plastic
surgeries
right? may have been to try to
cover
regain
those.
his real face. Yeah.
Okay. I now feel bad. And
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
I would like to apologize to the Rogers family, then, if that's my bad.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.